I believe this tape was 1520. In this tape I felt the best kind of resonance around green and purple. And that's what the state I felt like was not supposed to be. I'm beginning slowly just experience what this all means. I wish that they would have people to experience what the white light, which I was interested in. Slowly coming up to understand what this all means past 15, and will soon find out. tape was 1 month pattern, and based on I kind of zoned out a little bit, but I just see that all I have to do is just have something in my mind, hold it, and just repeat it every single day, and it will definitely come true. To just put it into my subconscious. And what I plan to do is just that I am incorporating everything in my life. I am incorporating everything that I learn in my life. And that's the main key. I plan to really use these techniques that I have come with over the past week and incorporate them in my life. I'm going to take them and to do something about them. And really make it productive. I see that I am the director of my life. And I am in charge of maintaining my emotions and keeping them in check. And it's happening. And at the same time, I experience just beautiful love and light inside. Just kind of joy in there and rest with such a peaceful The name of this day was Reese from the very last day. I just got no place inside. I just completely just so and that's Fletcher. And this expressions. And I guess I have to wait and see what's going to happen. There's a chance. Freeform 15. My experience of Freeform 15 was completely wonderful. I just went to such a deep place inside. I had this most wonderful thing that happened there. In that state, Kathy was there, and we were just both just beings of light. And there was this big heart that surrounded us, and we were just totally just one in that heart. And out of that heart, our souls just merged. There's this light that came from my third eye, and came from Kathy's third eye, and just totally, it was like two laser beams of light, of love, just merged into both of our bodies, and we just totally just became one. And then it was so beautiful that it was like a sexual experience. It was a form of sexual expression, but it wasn't a sexual energy, it was just pure love. We were both completely, totally fulfilled in that love, in that joy, in that happiness. Just total ecstatic self-expression. Because I was just inside of her and riding that wave inside, riding that wave of love, and just completely, both of us were in tune and just in sync and in one with each other. It was so beautiful. Coming from Kathy's breast was like this milk, just like light form, this light just coming out and out and out, and I was drinking and drinking. It was completely, wonderful. And then at one point, Kathy was there along with her daughter Chrissy, and she just, both of them just gave me a big, smile. And then all four of us, my daughter Chanda and I and Chrissy and Kathy were there, and we were just holding hands and just laughing and dancing and singing and playing. And it really was just like a family of love, just being in love and enjoying each other and laughing and playing and singing. Another point, after this sexual self-expression between Kathy and I, she just laid right on top of me. I just held her and held her, and we just exchanged just a wonderful warmth of love between us. Just completely, just both of us were just totally saturated in that love and just totally just in tune with each other. And it was so wonderful, such a wonderful, wonderful feeling. I feel like I've known her for a while, I don't know where, and somehow there's a connection between me and Kathy and Shrimraji. I really haven't figured it out, but I just have wonderful feelings, knowing that something beautiful and simple is really manifesting in my life, and I'm open to it. I'm open to seeing what will happen between us, and to see already it's such a wonderful, wonderful thing that is really happening. And later on, in one of the tapes, one of the questions, they said that I should talk to Kathy and see that during Thanksgiving, my daughter and I, we should go and visit Kathy and Chrissy and just really just see, what can happen, and just make it like a family affair. Just maybe we're not a family, but just in essence, just all four people just united in a simple spirit of joy and happiness, just to play and have fun and just really be of what we are. Yes, that's the end of that. Okay, the introduction to Focus 21 was a completely mind-blowing experience. Just Bob, as soon as I put on my headphones, I'm just totally united in that light, just completely submerged in that love inside, just totally just taken over, just like I was flying and with a whole group of swans, and this is incredible lake where there was all these lotus flowers just blooming and blooming. I just went through the various stages of consciousness. He took me from 10 to 12 to 15 through the different colors. And at 21, a most marvelous thing happened. Bob was there, just shining, and just in his joyful self. He just looked at me in his form and he gave me the thumbs up sign and says, "Go for it, just enjoy it, just really enjoy the show." And there was just so much love and communication between us. I recognized him and he recognized me, and just like, yeah, both of us know this is an incredible journey, the ultimate journey. And from then on, once he said that, I was just completely just ready just to accept and to experience going into that wonderful, wonderful light that I'm used to, but just going into a new way. I've seen how beautiful, of what an incredible place that is. And I just totally went there and just experienced that light, which is just supreme love and happiness. And it completely fulfilled me. Every single cell, every single molecule of my whole body was just resonating in that light. And I was just one, just bathing in that light, bathing in that joy, and just being in that atmosphere, just flying like a swan, flying like that beautiful bird, the most beautiful bird on the face of the planet, that swan, which is free. And I felt like my soul was just free. My soul was just singing in that joy and that happiness inside. And I was just one. It was so wonderful. And one of the most magnificent tip experiences was Freeform 21. I don't know if there's any words to describe really what happened there. From the moment I put on my headphones, throughout the whole process, I was completely riding the wave of ecstasy, the wave of joy. And that was technical. Bob was just a genius to develop that, because the sounds that he was emanating were the sounds, were the frequencies that exist inside. It was completely a marvelous, marvelous experience. Just to be completely, completely inside that experience of joy. And at several times throughout that, I would just have these wonderful visions of seeing Kathy and just being with her, and she was smiling at me, and then I would just drift away and just once again just dive more and deeper and deeper and deeper into that joy, and just going deeper and deeper and deeper into that light. And my whole body was just like an astronaut experiencing the G's and the different types of energies, how powerful and how incredible they are, and how it just touches a very molecular system of my whole being. And even beyond that, just goes to that point of just reaching the soul, reaching the very essence of life. And I just feel so wonderful knowing that everything is really happening in my life. That I have a vision, I have a quest, and it's happening and it's working. And I have some very good feelings about me and Kathy. And ever since last night, I just really am accepting and open and receptive to what's going to happen. And to know that I found somebody who wants to have that same type of experience that I'm yearning for and learning and want to be in. And that I can be in a foundation myself of strength and joy. And that she wants to be in that same place herself. And that's such a beautiful thing, such a beautiful foundation just to build something on. When both people are building their lives upon that inner experience and diving for it and going for it and just thriving for it. And I'm just in a very, very happy place. Very happy place. Knowing that all my dreams are really coming true on all levels. I guess one experience I really would like to express is my very last night. I went to bed about 12. I was kind of tired, and I just needed just to go inside and experience that inner beauty and just reside there and be by myself. So I went to sleep, and I just got absorbed and just went inside and drifted just was in that world of love. And I fell into a nice, deep sleep. And around 3 o'clock sharp in the morning, I woke, bam, automatically, just woke right up, wide awake. And something inside of me told me, go take a shower. And after I take a shower, I go upstairs and visit Kathy. So I did this, and it was so wonderful. And so I was kind of wondering, well, what am I doing? But I just had that faith and had that trust, that intuition, that something was just telling me. Some of my guys were just telling me, here, this is something that do it right now. Don't question it, just do it. So I did it. So I went up to Kathy's room, and I went into her room and went very quietly, very slowly, and opened up the curtain, and slowly, just very gently touched her. And she looked at me, and I could tell she was kind of in a state of shock herself, because she didn't know, if I was in my astral body or what was happening. She thought, I really just flew, because all she could see was my head and shoulders. She couldn't see the rest of my body. So then she was kind of startled. She looked, what's happening here? She says, is that you, or is that a ghost? But I just, reassured her, that yes, that was me. And then I just, climbed in with her, and just the whole night, we just held each other and just exchanged that feelings, emotions, of experience of love between one another. We just caressed each other and held each other. And there was such a warm inner exchange of love. It wasn't like a sexual energy. Maybe at times it was a little bit that would manifest, but it was more just the energy of love, energy of satisfaction and of joy, and of just being with each other and feeling each other and just caressing each other. It was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. I mean, what a way to end the week. Just with somebody that you love, and somebody that maybe I knew in the past, which I probably did, and once again am discovering of how beautiful we can really make it, and just to take one step at a time. And it's just so wonderful. And I remember at times I was aware of myself snoring, and yet I was in such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful state inside, just completely seen and being surrounded by love, by that light, by that joy, by that inner music, and by that inner energy, just completely bathed in that. And just seeing this beautiful, beautiful swans just completely surrounding Kathy and I, just like protecting us and saying, yes, everything is A-okay. Everything is going according to plan. Just relax and really enjoy each other and just help one another. And at one time, at one point, Kathy was just drifting away in her sleep. And then I saw for the first time one of my Indian guides called Running Water. And it was so wonderful. I saw his face. I saw him as an Indian. And at one time, Running Water, was my physical brother. We were brothers, and we were in a state of just running and laughing and playing and discovering the forces of nature together. And here he is now. He was my guide. He was my friend. And I saw him. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful connection. Because for a long time, I really wanted to know. I really wanted to see him. I knew we were friends. And we had such a brilliant communication between each other. And I went into a somewhat of a dream state. And right after I came out of my dream state, bam! There he was. Just running water. just like that eternal brave. Just forceful, powerful, and yet just full of love, just full of guidance, full of acceptance. And that consciousness lies inside of me. And I just felt so wonderful that whole night. The whole night, just from 3 on, just holding Kathy in my arms and caressing her. And sometimes we just gently would kiss each other, and then just holding her, and just transmitting that love that I had just into her, and just being there. And it was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
John Byer. John and I have been friends for 40 years. Wow, time sure flies. We first met in New York City around 1977. He was living in England with his wife and moved back to New York. We became instant friends. During the 80s, both of us landed in Miami Beach and we were exercise partners. We ran usually at night along the beach and then dove into the ocean. We loved to try different things. One day I saw an article in Omni magazine about the Monroe Institute and decided to check it out. I went as you read about my adventures. John went a few weeks later. He became good friends of the Institute, including Robert Monroe. John introduced me to Mafu. He went to a seminar in California during the summer of '87. He came back with some tapes. I was intrigued. Paul McLean, in one of my channeling sessions, talked about Mafu before Mafu was introduced to the public. John has been a practitioner of Rolfing for many years. This is from his website. John first experienced Rolfing in 1973, absolutely amazed at its results. I sought out every person who Dr. Rolf had personally instructed, and particularly those she chose as her first students, and received many hundreds of sessions of structural integration. I'm currently honored to have the esteemed Emulet Hutchison as my primary mentor, who promised Ida on her deathbed to carry her work forward in its purest form as long as it lived. After training in Hello Work and at the Rolf Institute, I graduated from the Guild for Structural Integration in Boulder, Colorado, and have practiced in the Zuma Terrace building in Malibu since 1997. Dr. Rolf was a genius whose understanding about the body are the reason her method is uniquely effective. Whether seeking relaxation or the deepest manipulation an injury or afflict may require, Dr. Rolf's methods can be tailored for you. I deliver results. Here's a great recommendation from Greg Louganis, the famous Olympic diver. I have worked for John for over 10 years and have done Dr. Ida Rolf's full 10 series with John several times. This progressive and powerful method of sequentially freeing up the physical layers in the body truly creates results every session and generating lasting changes over time. Dr. Ida Rolf once said that her work is something that two people do together. It's hard to understand until you have had a Rolf manual therapy, the active role the receiver has. I have come to this awareness with John's structure integration bodywork. John is the facilitator in my health, and I am equally integrated part in the change of my own healing process. As an adult living with HIV, John keeps me deeply in tune with the state of body, mind, and spirit that I aspire to. Besides HIV positive and now my 50, I intend to always maintain that same active lifestyle I always had. John has and continues to aid me in that goal through his work. John's body work is the best gift you can give yourself. John is terrific, dedicated, and unique in his approach. Thank you, John, as a friend and teacher. Namaste. Greg Louganis, Olympic diver. Throughout the years, we remain in contact with each other. We are on this incredible journey of life. We are all still discovering new things along on this journey of life. Yesterday I talked to John. I discovered our first challenge sessions we've ever did together. I stumbled upon them when I was looking for something else. John was amazed that I had them. It was our first time, so we were real rusty. Remember, it took me a month just to ride the darn bicycle. My brother just jumped on the bike and rode away. Anyway, I'm proud that we dove in. John and I will be friends for life. I haven't seen him in years, but the connection is still there.
Thank you, indeed. There is another who is in this region, as you would deem it. If you wish for him to come, it is possible for him to manifest. There is another who at this moment knows who he is being referred to, and is being called upon. And if he or she shall be courageous enough, for I shall not identify that easily. No hints are needed. Then, in that case, if he or she will be willing to step forth behind that last doubt, then there is more information for all of you. And as you have perhaps noticed, that indeed, in this instance, it is no longer Abraham who is speaking to you here. I shall not name the name of who I am here at this moment, for it would perhaps trouble or cause the entity who is speaking this difficulty to acknowledge that indeed it is I. However, let it be known to you that you all here, and some of you, even though you are from other cities, and you shall perhaps expand this circle, I am he, indeed, for I am a he, a great masculine energy, but not as you think of it. For indeed I have my feminine qualities. But I shall be working with all of you through this entity and allowing these events to take place for you regularly, even though they may occur in different cities, but you all shall have, and I invite you to take the opportunity to continue with these type of events. And I hear the judgment of all of you, and I hear in particular the judgment of that entity to which I am now speaking. For him, he is already rather concerned about his social status. He has already done many things that would endanger him in the eyes of many of his former and, well, we should not discuss this matter, whether they be former or present, but he has many teachers and gurus and those who respect him and have opinions about him. And for him, indeed, to undertake something of this nature is a bit further than he has been prepared to go. And indeed, he has had great trouble in listening to the last tape that when he did something of this nature, because it put him in such shock, as it were, that he could not even listen to it to completion.
Was that you? That he came through him at that time?
I am afraid that cannot be. Indeed, yes, that was I who came through at that time.
Is this Michael?
I am an aspect of Michael. I think this entity has had quite enough now.
Oh, come on.
And there is still another, if she wishes. From a land of supreme joy and happiness. This is a land where we all belong, where we all come from. This is the land of the light. That place where all must go, where all that dwells there are few words to describe such a wonderful place. People have talked about it. Books have been written about it. And yet, it is a place to experience, to know, to become one. And this is our life, that universal
life, which exists in everyone, in every being, in every soul, in every cell, in every molecule. It exists. It is real. And now we have the opportunity once again to go inside and experience that place that exists inside. I don't have the words to describe such a place, because it is beyond the words. It is a matter of a feeling, a emotion, which is even beyond any kind of emotion or feeling that exists in this world, in this physical plane. In this world is the highest emotion, and that is that emotion of love, of joy. And tonight, the White Brotherhood is here to tell us, to tell you, that there exists inside a world that is so glorious, so beautiful. It is our promised land. We heard about Moses taking his disciples to the promised land. It was not a land that exists outside. It was a land that exists inside. And there, all the masters dwell. All the beings dwell in that light, in that joy, in that happiness. And now, so much is taking place on this planet. There is no one path. If there is a one path, that path exists inside your own heart. And there are many ways to go inside. There's many ways to touch that heart. And the most I can say is words mean something. But what I am talking about is beyond words. We can read 1,000 books, but 1 second, 1 millisecond, or 1 nanosecond of that experience is far greater than reading books your whole life. Just 1 second of being and perceiving and experiencing that oneness, that joy, that happiness is worth more than all the books that have ever been written upon that experience. And yes, it does exist. It is real. What's happening right now is a means of something that is actually really happening. Most definitely, the person, the being who's sitting here is probably just as mind-blown as you are. I mean, he probably can't believe it. He's probably wondering what in the world is going on here. But that experience is so far greater that there has to be a sense of letting go and knowing that there's something far greater than is going on that meets the eye. As you human beings, you always tend to doubt. That's probably what happens in this dimension for you. You doubt. And therefore, by doubting, you don't have that experience that you're looking for. All great masters have said, have faith, be like a child. A child does not doubt, it simply believes. It has its fairy tales. And as adults, we think they're Looney Tunes. We don't believe in them. But there is truth in what they believe. And through their belief systems, they experience things like angels or fairies or UFOs. And as an adult, you perceive them to be something that cannot be experienced. Where in reality, it's as simple as day. All you got to do is turn on the switch. That experience is there. It's present. It's going on. It's a matter of opening up to it, turning on the switch, having faith, making a little bit effort. The time is now. There is no greater time than now. There is no greater joy than to simply walk towards the light, towards the truth, and embracing it and becoming one with it. In the next few years, we will see rapid transformations upon all those who are open to it. The energy vibration of this world will be increasing. All I can say is be open to it. Don't close down the doors. Whatever comes your way, be open to it. Open up your heart. Open up your mind. Things will happen to you that you will not believe. As this person who is sitting here can contest to that. I am from the White Brotherhood. We are all here for a purpose, and that is to know more about where we have come from. This Richard who sits here has been wondering and pondering for many years, where does he come from? And he is beginning to open up his doors of perception and really have that experience, a first-hand experience of where he is going. And yes, we will most definitely will blow his minds, and we will blow all of your minds. But the main key is you have to do it yourself. We can't do anything for you. We are here to give you information, nothing else. We can't take your hand. You have to do it yourself. You are the gods, and nobody else is going to do it for you. Yet we are here. Our purpose is here, is to tell you that you know the way. You can do it. There's nothing in this whole universe that can stop you. And yet we will come and we will encourage you. That is our joy, to help one another out. But that true health has to come inside. That true health, you have to do it yourself. there are millions of entities watching what is happening on the face of this planet. And we are all saying the same exact message. The tools are inside. Find them and use them. We can tell you how to dig for the gold, but you have to dig the gold yourself. And right now, you beings have waited over 7 million years for this to happen. This is the greatest time to be alive on the face of this Mother Earth. Because you shall see the transformation inside and outside. My name is Michael. Are there any questions?
Seems like there's going to be a lot of earth changes. And John and I are looking into finding a piece of land somewhere, let's say. I was wondering if you have any comments or any suggestions.
All I can say is don't be concerned so much about what is going to happen. What will happen will happen. My advice is to know yourself. And then it doesn't matter what happens. An atomic bomb may drop on your head. And it does not matter. You will die one day, one circumstance or the other. And all I can say is be happy now. Be happy in your soul. And therefore, it doesn't matter what happens. This body will die. But who you are will never die. I mean, if you want to, you can move to the Northwest. I'm not going to say no, don't go there. But my main concern is not to run to the mountains and build a farm and do this and do that and yet not know yourself. Why not move to the earthquake zone and know yourself? This is the main key, is to know yourself. It doesn't matter where you are. You'll be safe no matter where you go. As long as you know yourself. It's become your own. It's to own your own self.
It seems sometimes like there's so many obstacles and so many things in the way of becoming and owning yourself, and loving yourself. Sometimes it seems difficult. Is there any suggestion in that area? I mean, it's for me, it's easy to say I want to love myself and I want to own myself, but when I want to do it, it's hard.
Or you are doing it. What has happened in the last few years is by no chance. Whatever you are doing is by no means a chance. It has been put forth in your life for a meaning, for a purpose. Simply follow your heart. Simply enjoy your life right now. That is all I can say, is that you are doing your work. You are proceeding along the way. You are walking back home. And of course, obstacles will come up, because that's the whole point, is to bring them up and let them go. This is a school. If there were no lessons to be here, you wouldn't be here, would you?
So,
And nobody in this room would be here too. And I wouldn't even have any reason to come here. But this is a school. And there are teachers from the other plane who are here to teach you lessons. But the greatest lesson is you have to learn it yourself. We only give the textbooks, but the experience has to come from inside of you, inside and outside. But yes, to answer your question, you are going along beautifully. Your life is proceeding. And as a matter of fact, that goes for the same for everybody in this room. Are there any more questions?
Michael, do you have any inspiration or guidance to say about the work that John and I are doing in terms of winning games, exploring, and not sharing resources?
Well, your winning at work is a fine thing. You guys are really masters of trickery. Because the way you proceed, the way you go, and the way you're doing things is much more than meeting the eye. Because you will go into the business world fully disguised. You come with a attitude of what's that, changing people's work lives or their awareness or their consciousness, but yet what is behind it is that in reality they are going to change their whole lives, not only their work lives, but their whole lives. That is what it's all about, is they're going to be in charge of their own creation. And that is a very sneaky way of doing it, I must admit. You must have spent a lot of hours brainstorming that one.
I did.
And it definitely will succeed. I heard through a channel that will become a very popular word, the Winning at Work seminar. And I see a great potential there. Proceed. And you will go a long ways. Just each step of the way, be aware of what you're doing and the consciousness that you are putting behind it. And you will definitely see your fruit become blossoming more and more in this world. You will see the effects of your labor manifesting. As a matter of fact, maybe in a couple years you will be on the cover of Time magazine or Newsweek. Right now it's a little bit far-fetched in your eyes. But we shall see a great transformation in the way that you are operating. I don't really know too much about it, but from what I hear, there has a lot of potential. Let me go inside.
It is indeed a bit of a struggle for this entity when this device is put on him, but he can overcome it. For you see, what to you appears to be a struggle is entirely of your own creation. For what to you appears to be having to find yourself, having to know your truth, having to understand, wishing to comprehend, wishing to open to those energies that are now being introduced into your own physical body systems and into your planet as it prepares to shift to the next dimension. These are energies that are now available, and we wish you to receive these energies with joy in your hearts. For you see, a time has come for all of you and for this organism, the earth, where it is no longer possible to wait. It is no longer possible to hold back. It is no longer possible to prevent the inevitable evolution.
David Schweitzer. I just got up. It's 4:04 in the morning. I'm writing early because throughout the night my mind was going over what to say about David Schweitzer. We've been friends for over 40 years. Why, I log into my computer and there's a message from David. What a synchronicity. I've known David when I lived in New York City. He lived in Hartford, Connecticut. During the 80s, we both moved to South Miami. At some point, he starts making pyramid kits. Around the same time, my wife starts building pyramid kits. They don't know each other. Both of them at the time were studying with Ramtha. They were the only two individuals building these kits. Now, David and my wife Barbara had a mutual friend in Castle Rock, Arizona. Barbara went to visit Jim about 3 times. Each time, Jim Mayhew would say, "You just missed David and David Husson," another friend of mine. Now, David Schweitzer, John Byer, and Harry Bartz introduced me to Mahfouz tapes. My dear friend Catherine, who I met at the Monroe Institute, got a job working for Shirley MacLaine. Shirley was going on a nationwide tour and giving lectures. Well, they needed a computer programmer, and I get the job. I take a plane from Miami to Los Angeles. Then I get a ride to the office. I spent the day working, and after work, they said, "We're going to a Mahfouz event. Do you want to come?" The rest is history. Isn't it amazing that in my channeling readings, I was told that I would meet Mahfouz before Mahfouz was on the scene? Now, David was visiting California for a period of time. He went to several events. I moved to the Pacific Palisades, and we would take walks in the hills. Now, there was a pyramid project that David was going to work on. Mahfouz called David Hermes. Hermes was the main architect in Egypt for building the pyramids. Now, I'm not saying David was Hermes, yet why did David start building pyramid kits? Does our DNA contain blueprints of who we were in the past? We are all stardust. We are the universe. We're just simply these funky human beings. Well, David invites me to join this project. The project is located in Sedona, Arizona. Wow, what an incredible place. I take a plane from LAX to Phoenix. David and David are there. They said, We're going to see Zoran tonight, and would you like to come? So now David has introduced me to both Mafu and Zoran. Is there synchronicity going on? Anyway, I moved to Sedona, and we all share a house together. Eventually, I moved to this incredible trailer where my backyard is the creek. I have more details in this book, but I met my future wife there. She's going to rent my trailer for a while. Both David and David meet Barbara for the first time. They finally could put the pieces of the puzzle together. Who is this David? Who is this Barbara? Personally, David has a heart of gold. I think his IQ is off the chart. He is one of those who can do anything. There are several jobs he has worked on where you need the training, yet without the training, David comes in and performs. David has had an active acupuncture practice in Miami for many years. He has been using lasers quite successfully in his practice. David studied for a while Zen Buddhism. Personally, I think meditation helps in our daily life. Both my wife and I see David as a great example who brings heaven to earth. Frankly, I think that's the goal in life. If we all did that, then there would be heaven on earth. Meditation is not hocus pocus. Harry farts. It's 2:13 in the morning. I've been sleeping, meditating for an hour. I was thinking and contemplating about the web of life with Harry farts. I first met Harry in LA in 1976, about 40 years ago. It wasn't until the late 70s did we come in contact with each other again. We both moved to South Florida in the late 70s. We were both involved with the same teacher. At that time, Harry was running a tree cutting business. It was great business. There was always plenty of work. Harry hired me and we became good friends. At that time, windsurfing took off in America. Harry took up windsurfing. He invited me to his house, and in his backyard, I learned how to windsurf. I bought a board and it was love at first sight. John Byer and I were windsurfing buddies. During certain seasons, the wind would howl and you would have the time of your life. I didn't see Harry for a while. One day I bumped into him and he told me he finished a year course at the Computer Science Institute. He took basic Fortran and COBOL. I always knew I was going to be involved with computers. Even at a young age, I knew that. To make a long story short, I'm still involved 35 years later. So Harry was a catalyst. Here's the definition. In chemistry, a substance that causes a chemical reaction to occur, but is not itself involved in the reaction. Note, the term catalyst is often used to refer to the prime agent of any change. She was the catalyst for the reorganization. I find it fascinating that life's events helping you to be at the right place and right time. Synchronicity was there. Harry gave me the impulse to enroll and start an incredible career. Yet, it doesn't stop there. Harry was one of the ones who told me about Mafu. Fast forward a few years. Barbara and I moved into a house with Linda Graham. Linda's ex-boyfriend was Don Rockman, who in the future, 25 years later, provided the music for my first poetry music CD. It's featured on this site. Yeah, guess who's living next door? Harry Marks. Harry made a ton of money selling computers and moved to Sedona. This was in 1987. In 1991, my family and I moved to Hawaii for 6 glorious years. I got a software engineering job at Maui Space Surveillance Site. My wife and daughter went to Maui, and I went to Portland, Oregon for a few weeks. I had a contracting job I was going to work on. In Portland, I get a call from Harry, and he tells me that Mafu was going to give a 3-day retreat in Ashland, Oregon. He was teaching about ancient Vedic meditation techniques. Now that's a subject I love and dear to my heart, so I went. In 1999, I started working with Charles Schwab as a senior software engineer. At that time, our family was living in Penn Valley, California. I was a telecommuter. Now, Penn Valley internet connection wasn't very good. In fact, it was horrible. You had to use a modem. So I started to look for a community that had a great internet connection and a great high school for my daughter. Well, Ashland, Oregon just recently installed the whole town with fiber optics. Ashland High was an incredible school for my daughter. Guess what? Harry was still living there. During 2000 to 2008, we spent a lot of time seeing Mafu. He liked me. When we first moved there, one day he got off the stage and came up to me and gave me his initiation jacket. This jacket he worn for many of his initiation. I was honored. At that time, I also was involved in a mystery school and used that jacket for the initiations. For many people, they think that channeling was a fake. Well, I met and talked to Mafu many times. We had a relationship that was deep. Like any relationships, you know one another. Yet, there were numerous times I saw Penny, who channels Mafu, and said hello. She had no idea who I was. In fact, I think I spoke to her once when she was reading off the list of attendants for a seminar and said hi to each one. One day I saw her and Rob Spindler was with her. I said hi, and I was walking away. She whispered to Rob, "Who's that?" I said, "That's Richard Fletcher." That really gave me a sign that I had a relationship with Mafu. How can you have a relationship with someone when you never interacted with them? So it makes perfect sense for Penny to say, "Who's that? We have never interacted before." What I like about his group, that Mafu talked about kindness. He taught about compassion. He talked about meditating for the whole planet. He taught universal truths. The universe is kind. That is its nature. Mafu is kind. That is his nature. As human beings, our true nature is kindness. It is just covered up. So here was a group practicing universal truths of love and compassion. It wasn't just words. Mafu was an incredible drummer. Imagine during the winter, it's snowing, and you're on top of a mountain inside of an ashram. It's nighttime, and the wind is howling. Mafu is on stage beating these huge Japanese taiko drums. It's a sight to see. At that time and place, you can be in some remote monastery on top of a mountain in the Himalayas at night. Now, back to Harry. As you can see, Harry has had a tremendous impact in my life. Harry is very kind. In Sedona, I had little to my name, and Harry would treat me to lunch. Harry doesn't say much, like myself at times. He doesn't preach. He just smiles. He has nothing to prove. He loves to meditate. I know he is having a great experience, but he doesn't talk about it. Yet you can see it from his eyes. He is humble. He has served the Foundation for Meditative Studies for over 25 plus years. I call him a few times each year. It's good to connect with a dear friend. Friendships are God's way to connect to Him. Imagine we are the universe, yet we have forgotten that fact. Friendship is God's way of saying, "I love you." Treasure your friends. We all have an aching soul that's trying to find its way home. Friendships help soothe the soul. In the fall of 1982, I went to New York City on a business trip. I stayed at a friend's house. While I was there, I heard about a good friend of mine, Paul McLean, who was channeling people's guides. I stayed at one of my best friend's house, Mark and Geraldine. They told me how Paul McLean had these incredible experiences over a period of a year and a half. At first I was skeptical and really had no clue in what they were talking about. I could care less about talking with some person who had been on Earth, left his body, and communicated from the other side. Well, I learned there's a lot more than that. Since Paul and I were friends, I wanted to check it out. I wanted to be open. Maybe something greater would come my way. I met with Paul, and he told me that for a year and a half he would leave his body. In this state, strange things would happen to him. He would hear voices and talk to guides from another dimension. He thought he was going crazy. Over time, he learned more about these experiences and came to terms with his experience. He had the ability to channel a person's guide. At this particular time in my development, I was only aware of my experience as God as a form of infinite energy. God was light, it was sound, it was the Word of God. My realm of experience was a completely different nature. For years, Paul also had these kinds of experiences. He loved to meditate also. In my first meeting with my guides, Paul was put into a trance. It was like falling asleep. He would drift away and this incredible being would come in. His whole being would change. His voice would change to male or female depending on the guide who was present. I was completely blown away. The information that came through was incredible. I knew it wasn't Paul because of the details of my life being described. Paul knew me, but the information that came through was very personal. Paul didn't have a clue about my life in the past. I developed a strong sense of communication with my guides. They prophesied many events in my life. One of them was about that soon in the future I would meet this entity named Mahu. He was an enlightened lord who would come and channeled by a female. I was directed to move to California. This indeed did come true. This experience came at a time that Amaji wasn't even channeling Mahu. I know a lot of people have a hard time with the channeling experience. It's true some people go to channeling so other guides can make decisions for them about their life. But my experience was different. The information that I received was incredible. I developed a relationship with my friends on the other side. Because we are so material, we have lost touch with our acute senses. Man has the ability to be aware of different dimensions. A lot of people in mental hospitals aren't crazy. They truly hear voices. Because our society can't grasp or understand these experiences, we brand them as crazy. Oracles have been around for thousands of years. I went to Paul probably 10 times in a 10-year period. All in all, I had an incredible time. I learned a lot about myself. A lot of sessions were like a psychoanalyst session. I learned how to begin to deal more directly with my life. I took the reins of my life and began to direct it in a more direct fashion. I became my own teacher. I put more faith and trust inside of myself. In the past, I would look at teachers for my guidance. I began to look at myself for my own inner guidance. I learned that God helps those first who help themselves. Below is a small excerpt of my first meeting with Paul. There are no accidents. All things which come to pass are under the will of the Almighty. The one is of good heart and of good will and of an open heart will find there is no end to the workings of the Almighty. There's never a time when your amazement will cease at the wonder of the Almighty. Always there will be new and uncharted borders. Always old things will fall away, and new and brighter, greater things will come to pass. And a time will come when all things, all present consciousness and awareness will fall away to bear a more complete and new state of consciousness awareness. And the old falling away will feel much like death, and the new will feel much like a rebirth into divine kingdom. It is always this way in the workings of the great God. There will never be a time for one who is of good heart and open heart and goodwill when love for his Creator will cease. There will be times when you wish to thank and times when you wish to hate. and times you wish to cease your existence for pain of longing and time, when you would wish your existence to go on forever. And times you feel neglected, and times you feel the favorite son of the Almighty. The Lord Almighty will move your experience itself to make fall away all present understanding. You must not fear this death, for beyond this death of this sort is always new life, as you learned many times to this point. At times your love will be strained and felt as though it is being tested. This will be given to you by the Lord Almighty, and at times it will feel as though you can't make any step without the sense of grace behind even the smallest thing that you do. There will be times when come which you will ask yourself, where have I stepped awry? And at these times you must remember, you have been guided to precisely to the point where you found yourself by the workings of the Almighty Divine Father. Your faith is strong, for you are goodwill and good heart and open heart. You are this way because the Lord has given you this to you. And yet it is time, as always is time, for ever strengthening bond, an ever greater love, an ever fervent desire, going more in each period of more and more fervent love, which enables you to carry and be about the service of the Father. For in all doings you must request, not simply know, but request that you may serve, that your moment be of service, that your life may be given greater purpose. In each moment, the service of the Almighty. And in each moment, you must ask for knowledge that you are not alone, for it is not enough to know it, but is more to ask. And having been asked to thank, and having thanked to ask again, and to offer yourself in that way which the Lord would have yourself serve. Your will and the Lord's will be of the same intent, for it is of the Lord's mercy that you are allowed and all allowed to be fulfilled in any way which they choose, so long as the love between the two remains the important thing. But those who are truly blessed, who find it within themselves to have this request of service in this way, the Lord would have you serve. This is truly a blessed thing, for even to come to this understanding is no small thing. This is perhaps the greatest level of human existence, for when the Almighty has given all free will to embark upon any road that they so choose, and one with their will, by the grace, finds it within themselves to surrender their will to that of the Almighty, regardless of the consequences, for in the surrender is the fulfillment. This is no minor thing, nor may we all even do so this thing. But these indeed are fortunate who have such a blessing to find themselves in this position. My child, you are in such a blessed state. You must always remember to be humble before God, humble before the Master, and humble before the servants of the Lord's will, giving always from your heart, from the desire to be one with the greatest thing. I am Richard, who has been called the Lion-Hearted, and you and I are a part of each other. Indeed, it may be said that you and I are the same. Indeed, it may be said that at one time we were not apart, but at one time we were the same being. But as time continues, the soul finds in its multiple parts different aspirations. Your aspirations has its duty here, while mine has my duty elsewhere. We serve in our ways as the Lord would have us serve. I here, and you there. My brother and I were born December 24, 1952, in Pasadena, California. We had an incredible childhood. My dad and grandfather owned an aerospace company. The first house I remembered was near an orange grove. My brother and I would sneak through the fence and walk in the orange grove. There was a tree house, and we'd climb up on it. We were probably 3 years old. Our house was years ahead of its time. My father and grandfather were both inventors. They developed a house where you could walk in the house, clap your hands, and the lights would come on. The outlets weren't on the walls, but hidden in the carpets. We had sensors that when it rained, the windows would close. My mom would watch us in the backyard by a video camera while she was cooking dinner. This house was featured in the Los Angeles Times home selection. This is back in the early 50s. In the early 2000s, I saw a Burger King commercial where my mom was making hamburgers. The frying pan was floating in the air. The stove used induction coils. At that same time period, they developed a Jeep that could shoot at its tires and nothing would happen. This Jeep could float downstream. It was lighter and got more miles per gallon than the standard Jeep. They tried to get the United States government to buy the Jeeps, but after several years of losing bids, they saw the handwriting on the wall. If you don't have inside connections with the government, you could have a futuristic Jeep and nobody would care. During this time, they came up with a way to make houses that would cost 1/10 of the present day house. It was all modular. They could put up a complete house in a week. The trade union was strongly opposed to this. Consequently, it was never marketed. I guess those early years really had an impact on me. I subconsciously adapted to always looking towards the future and bring that technology back to the present. One of my first was multimedia. Even before multimedia was born, I had a company with a good longtime friend, John Slavsky. We developed a visual database for the real estate market. You could put in a search for a house, and all house which matched the criteria of the house would come up. When you saw a house you liked, it would take you on the tour of the house. The program won awards at trade shows, but it was far too ahead of its time. We developed some trial photo database programs for the Department of Justice, but finally lost to IBM, who bidded $1 for the job. One of my first impressions when I was young was that when my brother and I was born, I said to him, "You go first and check it out." My brother remembers going down a long, bright tunnel in ecstasy and then told me to come down. I remember it was a rush and both of us laughed inside. When we were young, my brother and I had our own telepathic communication with each other. A lot of people thought we had communication problems because we didn't talk English very well. I remember our state of communication was nonverbal, but with thoughts, pictures, emotions, and experience. It was like if you wanted to know about an apple and you never seen one. Talking was one way to explain about an apple. Another way was to graphically send the experience of an apple. I remember hearing stories about tribes in the South Sea Islands who would communicate with their loved ones telepathically. Today, we use telephones. Our sense of communication is more physical. It's kind of funny that people think it is mystical when it's probably very natural. We have simply not used this communication, so we forget we ever had this ability. So now, we scope at the idea that men can communicate in ways that we don't imagine. My brother and I loved to play jokes when we were kids. I remember that one joke we played was on our bus driver coming home from kindergarten. As the bus driver drove us home, we realized that our mom wasn't home. Usually, when this is the case, the driver can't release you. You have to return to kindergarten. My brother and I definitely didn't want this to happen. As soon as the bus stopped, my brother and I ran out the bus and ran to our front door. It was locked. So we ran to the back of the house and entered another door. The bus driver was amazed. He knew what happened. He started to yell, "Open the door. You have to return to kindergarten." We both made faces. Fortunately, my mom came home and resolved the situation. When my brother and I were babies, my mom put fingernail polish on one of us to tell us apart. We used this to our advantage growing up. In the 5th grade, we would switch classes for the fun of it. All the kids in the class would get a kick out of that. I remember when I was a child, my uncle took my brother and I to a Bob's Big Boy for a chocolate milkshake. The placemats were a spaceman with the words, "Take me to your leader." My brother and I were so much in joy placing these masks over our faces. In one way, we knew that we came from the stars, and it was real funny to see those masks. We know that these earth and bodies were stardust and could laugh at the joke. Yet, we really take this life too seriously. We think this world is so physical, yet over 94 years ago, Einstein taught us different. Yet we still continue to live and believe so staunchly in this space-time continuum. My brother and I knew we were special, and yet we knew everyone was special but didn't know about it. I remember looking at the stars when I was a child, and I knew that I came from beyond the universe. Here it was in a tiny human body, but something inside of me knew that my consciousness existed everywhere. I was the sun and the stars. I knew as human beings we had this capability to experience this, but at the time our Western culture never expressed the idea. I remember when I was probably about 10 years old, my yearning for self-discovery really began. I began to look consciously for ways to learn about myself. Wherever I heard the word India, or meditation, or yoga, it would send a chill down my back. I remember trying to get involved with church, but I had a hard time with the concepts. I felt that life was glorious and incredible. Christianity was trying to make me feel guilty for what happened 2,000 years ago. At the time, I had a strong connection with Christ, which I still do. It was my own personal and private connection. I felt that religion should be a private experience. I had my own personal experience with the Creator. At times, I would watch the church services on TV, but it really didn't have any substance. I felt it was a lot of talk and it took advantage of people. I knew at that age, if I kept my vision, that I would someday have the experience that I was looking for. I knew the doors were inside of my own being, but I wasn't conscious of the door being open. I knew I needed a direct, personal experience of my Creator. My life as a child ran on 2 levels. I was happy-go-lucky kid. I loved the world and played to my heart's content. The other side of my life was very personal. I wished for the stars and for my friends on the other side. I lived in this world, but I didn't altogether leave my inner world. I knew there was a purpose to life. Our culture at that time hardly expressed our desire to become one with our Creator. We were taught that when you die, you might have the chance to experience your Creator. I could never buy that. I knew as human beings we had the capability to have a first-hand, moment-to-moment connection with our Lord. It was direct and personal. As a child, I never wavered from that. At times, I would have fleeting glimpses of that experience. I remember waking up and feeling such a joy and ecstasy. I knew that in my dreams, I went to such an incredible place. I didn't have full conscious memory. I knew my friends were looking after me. I felt that in due time, I would be shown the way to consciously 24 hours a day to be in that joy. The following day, I was sitting by the Ganges meditating when I completely lost consciousness of this planet. I saw a light more brilliant than the noonday sun. My consciousness was flowing into a river of nectar. I felt the whole Ganges river was flowing through me. Raji had a beautiful poem by Rumi, a great Sufi teacher, that sums it up. It goes like this. There is a palace in the sky without any foundation. A blind man sees a light more brilliant than a million suns. A deaf man listens to the unstruck music. A lame man climbs up a well and drinks the nectar, becomes totally intoxicated. The quencher is only a wise man understands what I'm talking about. From then on, my life was to change drastically. After my initiation and this experience, my life was never the same. I was shown something so incredible that my focus was on this experience. My whole life from then on was based upon practically cultivating this experience. Day by day, I was going deeper and deeper into my existence. My days in India were spent in meditation and spending time with Marathi. Meditation was such an incredible experience. I call it going to the movies. Day by day, I was going deeper and deeper into realms I'd never been before. Premnagar was such a beautiful place. I was thousands of miles away from home, and then again, I was truly at home. I was content and full of such an incredible bliss. My mind was learning to focus on something inside of me that never changes, that was and will always be. I was learning how to be connected to that experience 24 hours a day. I practiced meditation like how I surf with joy and the thrill of riding the waves of life. To this day, I'm still blown away that this experience is lying dormant inside of humanity, just waiting to be discovered. We are searching for the jewel, and the jewel is hidden inside of each one of us. Over time, it's not all bliss and roses with this experience. I had to face my mind. The mind is such a powerful thing. It can be your friend or enemy. I learned over time to become its friend. In the beginning, at times, I thought I would go crazy. The mind was constantly chattering. I would sit for hours, and at times I wanted to get up and just forget the whole thing. But then I would break through. Then that experience would rush in and completely saturate your being. You are bliss. I felt that I had to break down the door. Over time, I walked through the door, and my mind hasn't bothered me in this way since. I'm not saying my mind doesn't bother me. At times it does. But when I close my eyes or put my connection on this Word of God, my whole being is filled with bliss. In the beginning, it took tremendous effort to have this kind of experience. In the beginning, you meditate on the experience. Years later, that experience meditates on you. I remember that a few days before Christmas, the whole ashram took a train ride from Hardwar to Patna, a city in Bihar, India. Bihar is one of the forest states in India. The scenery was beautiful. We were traveling on this old, funky Indian train. We could see swamps that were full of lotus flowers. Wildlife was everywhere. Raju was having a 3-day program. I remember at the festival there was probably 1 million people there. At one point in the festival, the Ari Samaj attacked the festival. I'm not sure how many people died. The group caused a lot of trouble in India. It was kind of scary to sit on stage watching fighting only a half mile away. India was quite a different place. The people were quite friendly. They liked Westerners. The Indian people in general had a strong conviction for God. Before leaving to Bihar, my friend Peter left to go back to America. I loaned him the money, which I got back in South Africa. The Westerners left in January. There were only a few of us left. I spent my remaining time in Delhi. I remember I would meditate and go into town. The Indian food was great. I bumped into the son of James Arness. His father was a famous actor in Hollywood. He played in Gunsmoke on TV. He had a son, Ralph, at the time, who was a world champion surfer. It was quite funny meeting him. I was buying a kilo of cashews for $1. I just started talking to him. During this time, Marathi was planning to go to South Africa. He needed a few Westerners to go and help set up the necessary arrangement. Somehow, Marathi's mother asked me to go. So in early February, we embarked to Bombay. One morning, I was driving to work where I had this incredible flash, which only lasted for a second. In this flash, I became one with the whole universe. I was the sun, the stars, black holes, galaxy. I knew everything. I was intelligent. Here I was driving down the highway in rush hour traffic when I had this experience. The experience only lasted 1 second, but it had such an impact. It was like a lightning strike. My whole body and being was so charged. Each one of us can have such a realization. It goes beyond time and space. I wonder what would happen if I could tap into this 24 hours a day. Makes you kind of wonder. One early morning, I was meditating using Mahfu's techniques. I felt such joy and happiness. All of a sudden, I felt this incredible power. I saw this incredible cobra at my root chakra. This cobra was slowly rising up my spine. The energy was incredible. It was so real. I became a little afraid due to the power and the cobra. I knew I would not be harmed at all. I controlled my fear and let the experience grow. The cobra went all the way to my third eye, which is the pituitary gland. At each step of the way, I would have a different experience. I've always heard about the Kundalini experience, but this was the first time I had the experience to see it. The Vedas talk about this experience. The cobra was so real. It was like you had to face your greatest fears, and then and only then could you be taken to a different level of consciousness. It's amazing this experience exists inside of our own being, and yet it is dormant. We are so involved in this world that we simply are unaware of a greater reality. I learned that the scriptures of the past were based upon practical experience. We have simply convoluted the meaning of the experience and came up with a different meaning altogether. The following day, I packed up my bags and took a train to Brahmnagar. Maraji's ashram is near Hardwar. It's a small town in the foothills of the Himalayas. The next 2 weeks I listened to discourses about this knowledge. Something inside of me knew that it was to receive the experience of a lifetime. I knew the door to my soul was to be opened. Words are hard to express the feeling that was going inside of my being. I knew that in a short time I'd be shown and would reveal the secret of life itself. I knew this experience was real. I took a lot of people who had the experience. I could tell and sense that something wonderful was going on. I liked the idea that the proof is in the pudding. I didn't want to join a cult or religious group. I just wanted a direct and continuous experience of the power that's keeping me alive. I knew through practice this could be achieved. During this time, the war between India and Pakistan was going on. Each night there were air raid sirens going on, and off in the distance we could hear bombs going off. There was a general blackout at night. Pakistani bombers were only miles away. Air raid sirens were heard in the distance. At that ashram, the whole place was so serene, while this part of the world, people were dying. Trains of Pakistanis were being massacred going from India to Pakistan, and trainloads of Indians were being massacred going from Pakistan into India. Such a dichotomy. I'll never forget my initiation. There were probably about 20 of us in a small room. Maraji had initiators who revealed his knowledge. We were in the room while Maraji was playing on top of the roof directly overhead of us. This experience that I had that day still sends shivers of joy, just merely the thought. The first technique the initiator revealed was the light technique. I always knew that the human being had the ability to see the light inside. This is an actual experience. When the initiator touched my forehead, I felt this incredible surge of energy. I knew at that point that something incredible was going to happen. My whole body and soul sensed it. My consciousness completely left its physical existence. A golden circle of light appeared. Inside of this circle, a brilliant blue star appeared. This golden circle of light and this blue star was so beautiful. It's probably the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Waves of love, joy, and peace were surging inside my consciousness. All of a sudden, the star transferred into a ray, a tunnel of blue light which went on for infinity. I merged with the blue ray. It's very hard to describe this experience. I was at home. The doors were open. I was given the keys, and it was up to me to cultivate that experience. I have definite proof that we are more than these bodies. All of a sudden, the mystery of life was revealed. I knew the secrets behind our religion. There was a genuine experience that could be shown and experienced. Years later, I realized that this experience was initiation into Lord's Michael Blue Ray. It was the Jacob's ladder. This experience was the ladder to God. To this day, I'll never forget this experience. It gave me practical proof that God exists. I knew it, but this was a practical experience. It was more real than any outside human experience. I knew my life was on track. I had waited years to go home. I was shown such a glorious place. When I returned to this body and regained physical consciousness, my whole body was shaking like a dot. My body had a hard time. Can you imagine being hooked up to the power plant of the whole universe? I knew no damage was done. Over time, I knew that the body was built and designed to handle these kinds of currents. Day by day, through meditation, man can slowly harmonize with these frequencies and begin to vibrate at this frequency. There were 3 other techniques that were revealed. One was the music technique. I was shown how to listen to the innermost frequencies of life. Since God is energy, man has the capability to be in tune and listen to subtle yet energy frequencies. Different religions have different concepts about this experience. By listening to this music over time, man is filled with such a joy and peace in his life. The mind slowly begins to slow down. In this state, man gets in contact with an energy frequency that is infinite. This energy is pure love and bliss. The whole universe is comprised of this energy. It was, is, and will always be. This is the Word of God. Every major religion talks about the Word in some form or another. This is a very simple technique where man can be in direct communication with the subtle energy. When a person first received this initiation, the Word is very subtle. The majority of people really don't understand the power of this Word. I know a lot of people who took this experience and never really tried it out. Over time, I can consciously put myself in direct communication with this Word. My whole being is instantly filled with such a wave of love and bliss. I'm not there 24 hours a day, but I know it's possible. I have had experiences that I was completely taken out of this physical world and taken into a place where there's no time and space. The only thing existed was this incredible energy of love. I know I was at home with my Father. This energy exists throughout all creation. It exists in the manifest and unmanifest. It exists throughout time and space and beyond. All of creation came from this Word. In the Bible in St. John, the verse goes like this: in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Human beings have the capability to tune into this experience. The last experience was one of the living waters or nectar experience. When man is in this experience, powerful hormones and enzymes are secreted through the endocrine system. Through the ages, man has learned that he has a capability to actually experience this nectar or living water. Just one drop of this is an incredible, powerful experience. One drop has the capability to take man's consciousness into a definite altered state. This fluid is very cleansing to the body. When Christ was in the desert for 40 days and nights, he lived off this manna. This experience is energy in its subtle form. It is energy, yet it transmutes itself into matter. This experience is very powerful to the endocrine system. I've had numerous experiences with this nectar. It's probably the most intoxicating drug known in the universe. Unlike a drug which has side effects, this experience is completely beneficial to the body and soul. These experiences reveal over time who we truly are. We are more than our mind or body. We are in fact the source of life. Each one of us are part of this universal consciousness. We just don't remember it. It's amazing when we were born, we came from the source. Our whole body was this consciousness. Over time, we forgot. Years later, we have completely forgot of our true existence. After the initiation, I thank my Creator for revealing Himself to me. My dreams come true. I had the tools. Everything made sense to me. I could read the scriptures and understand the hidden meaning. The scriptures were at the same wavelength. I had a lot of respect for the major religions. Let me introduce Zoran. Zoran is an entity who is known in other dimensions as Logos. Logos on this planet comes from the Greek word which means word or power. The Bible talks about Logos as the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Zoran was the personification of that Word. The first time I met him was in Phoenix, Arizona. A few of my friends saw him and said I might like to see him. They said he was real different, and liked to teach for toes. Zoran is channeled by Makar. When he comes into her body, he takes over much like Mahmoud. Anyway, we arrived late to the hall. I see the program has started. From the loudspeaker, I hear a voice which sounds like Mahmoud. I'm thrown for a loop and ask myself, why is Mahmoud's tape being broadcasted through the sound system? I sit down and see that this voice is actually Zoran. I love the way Zoran was. His whole teaching was through games and laughter. He had all these stuffed toys that he would hand out. At one part of the program, he started to pull out people from the audience. He pulled me out and gave me an orange ball. He then proceeded to ask each one of us what this toy meant to you. When he came to me, he asked me about the orange ball he gave me. I told him that orange represents collagen, the substance which ties the cells together. Without collagen, the cells would fall apart. This ball represents a life force which keeps the entire universe together, otherwise it would fall apart. He just laughed and blinked his eyes and said, "Good answer." That night, I was very intrigued by Zoran. I knew that we were best of friends. I wanted to talk to him personally. The following day, a meeting was arranged. The first part of the meeting was spent in such laughter. People outside the rooms, there was like an auditory of people laughing. There was only 3 of us. At one point, Zoran said, "If I laugh anymore, we'll have to leave this physical body. It will cause damage to her body." At this time, the tone became more serious. I learned I was a student of his at a planet called Newtonus. This school was learning about the ways to split open the atom using one's mind. The school was built on practical experience. It was truly a mystery school. Makar and I were both students in this school. Zoran told me many wonderful things. We became real good friends. At one of the seminars, he had always called me. I became a friend just like the good old days. I remember one day he asked me, "What do you think about women?" "Why," I said, "I want to solve that mystery." He said that someone special was going to happen and that very soon I would meet the woman of my dreams. The next day, I had a dream where I met my future wife, Barbara. A voice came to her and said, "When you meet this person, you should get to know them." A month later, I was staying at a friend's house and Barbara walked into the house. I recognized her at once. I played it quite cool because I knew that destiny would be played out. The rest is history. Zoran taught me a lot of techniques of getting in touch with myself. His whole style was through laughter. He said that laughter and joy create such a frequency that it sinks in subconsciously. He had a great analogy that when you go to the bathroom, you don't inspect your stools. He said so many people struggle to reach happiness. Life is not a struggle. Life is not a battle. Life is fun and humorous. I never laughed as much as with Zoran. He taught me a new angle of life.